right, Ez, I believe you have a raven for us as well today.
Yeah, this raven is titled, Will House Stark Go Extinct? Okay, so again, shout out to John Ramshorn of the Free Folk, John Garcia here. So starts off, hello, Ser Ezra and Sir Matt, the Southern Kneelers. Now hold on a second.
Whoa. Buddy.
Southern Kneelers. I recently found this podcast and have been binge listening to it at work every day the last 4 to 5 weeks or so, and going through 4 to 6 episodes. Wow. A work day, Monday through Friday. You are literally flying through. The way you combine both show canon compared to the real book canon is a great mix, and my fix of Game of Thrones has been met with all the fantastic content since the original show has ended, and the books are still a question in the making. Yeah, it's very, very interesting situation we're in. That being said, I have a question/comment about the future of House Stark from what the show has shown to what the book may show in the future novels, possibly. The show at the end of the series has the members of House Stark as follows: Queen Sansa of the independent North Kingdom, Princess, I guess he says, Arya, I guess, good point. Princess Arya Stark of the North, and King Bran Stark of the Six Kingdoms. But with everything the show has told us, what are the odds any of these few members having children to further the Stark lineage and progress forward? Arya is off on her adventure to the far west of Westeros, which may or may not end in disaster. In history, Brandon the Shipwright, king in the north, tried thousands of years before Aegon's conquest to sail west and was never heard of again, and his son Brandon the Burner destroyed the rest of the Stark Western fleet in retaliation. Even with that said, what are the odds that Arya would want to get married and have a family, a child or two? She was given the chance with Gendry to help him with ruling Storm's End, and she turned him down. True, she could maybe have a potential baby on the way per her visit with Gendry, but that is never mentioned or hinted at from what we know. King Bran Stark of the Six Kingdoms, given his physical limitations and disabilities, we don't know whether he is physically able to have children, and with him being the last true Stark male, he is somewhat of the last hope to what Westeros expects, how families survive, ideally, through the male side of the family. So yeah, it's interesting with Bran there. Last is Queen Sansa of the North, and with what she has gone through from her harsh experiences in King's Landing, major stress from her aunt at the Eyrie, and finally the abhorrent treatment from Ramsay at her own home. She has to have some severe mental trauma and scares, to say the least. Does she even want to get married again? Would she be able to mentally accept a marriage and trying to have children with everything that has happened? I don't know, but given how so many great families have been killed off and gone extinct, Mormonts, Umbers, Karstarks, Boltons, any families left should be seriously trying to have as many future children as possible to secure their family line. Of course, in the books, Rickon is still alive, potentially on Skagos. Bran is still in the upper north. Sansa hasn't been handed over to Ramsay, and Arya is, I believe, training. But I'm curious if at the end of the series, what the future of House Stark will be. Sadly, Jon in the show is a Targaryen, kinda, but depending on how his exile goes and whatnot in the show, who knows the books? Who knows the books where he'll be in the books? He could be dead. It could be a dead end, perhaps. All right. Sorry if this is too long. It was just always bothering me and made me question if none of the remaining Stark members were thinking about the future of their house. All right, seeing anything could happen and knock away any Stark members left in the world. I shall keep listening to the podcast and will try to join Patreon when I can. I have already thought of a house I belong to. All right. Being from the north of the wall, belonging to the Free Folk. Here we go. So I am from the mountain. I'm from the Mountain Ram clan that live on the mountains of the Frostfangs that border the frozen shore and the Bay of Ice. We survive, quote, stronger than the mountain. Thanks for listening. Thanks for reading from the True North. Wow.
Okay, now I get it. If he's okay. I thought he was calling us Southern Kneelers as like a loyal star, somebody from just the north, but no, he's a wildling.
Oh no, yeah,
I get it.
He's from the true north.
I get it. Yeah, we're true. I get it. Yeah. Oh, okay. There we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Arya being gone. Who knows what adventure she gets into. I think it's likely Sansa marries somebody at some point, and that will continue the Stark line. In the show, it's possible Bran can have children. I can't remember entirely if he says I can't or not, but I don't remember if he says that or not. He obviously kind of brushes Mira away. But remember that Bran is a king that was chosen, and part of the deal was that they were then going to choose a king from there on out. So there's nothing saying you couldn't resign. There's nothing saying that you have to be king forever. It's kind of more of like a democracy there now, I suppose. So I mean, if Bran can't have kids, then theoretically he and Sansa could go Targaryen on it and
they could
really continue the Stark line. I mean,
they could.
You could.
They could. Yeah, and you know what's crazy is that's not even odd to say in this series. Like not even close.
It's not. No.
So yeah, okay. And this is. I actually have thought. No one's really. Well, I don't think anyway. I don't think anyone's really brought this up. But like I've kind of thought.
Question.
I've kind of thought the same thing. Like, yeah, is it? We're not really seeing like. We're so attached to this house, but then to see that it would kind of go, and we keep thinking he's going to come back. Maybe they even win, but they're unable to. They're the last. They're the last of that great house, and we know that. And we like somehow if you set that up in our mind to where we're like, wow, we know that their house cannot continue, and they are going to live out the rest of their days being great heroes and having kind of restored things or whatever. But then they are going. Their house, that name is going to be. Dunzo. It's going to fall to history, and it's going to be a part of the history books, and that's it. That seems like something George would do, and something that he could do. I don't know. Again, it's all the customs, it's all the traditions in Westeros that would tell you, all right, well, the male line is what is significant, what's going to continue. That's what carries sort of the name, and we went back, Council of 101 AC. It was the whole situation with the Targaryens. It's one of the reasons why they did kind of they did not intermarry a whole lot with marry outside of their family with other houses, because they wanted to keep their name and their bloodline strong, because they were so few. It could have quickly have just could have dissipated in some way. Rickon is still alive though, and I think
in the books.
In the books, yes. I think it may go different. I actually think Rickon may survive the whole thing. I know that's not like people don't like that, and they like, why would they do that in the show then? If there's a lot of reasons. We don't have to get into all that right now. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it is still highly likely that George though said, yeah, Rickon's going to die. I'm going to use him in some way, and it's going to be devastating to folks, because it looks like he's coming back for this awesome return. Davos or whatever is bringing him. Maybe it's Stannis who does it. That would be nuts, right? If Stannis is the one.
Yeah.
Although things just aren't making sense, right? Because then Stannis wants to put a Stark. He needs a Stark, and he wants one just like the Manderleys to put back in Winterfell. So you have Rickon there, and that's where I think possibly Bolton intervention is going to be huge, because you still have to get past the Dreadfort and everything to bring Rickon down to the Manderleys or wherever, and it could be troublesome for Davos. But I like the idea of him being that younger child who grew up in all this trauma, and all of his brothers and sisters went through so much, and then he would have so many. I hate to say this, but like, can you imagine the issues, right? That a child like that,
because he's a lot younger in the books.
A lot younger, way younger.
Yeah.
I mean, he's lost.
I think he's like 4 years younger than really what his character looks like on screen.
Right. And the thing is, and sometimes we think that makes a character safe, but George told us right out the gate that Rhaegar's children, Elia, Martell, the whole thing, not safe. So
but real quick.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. I don't put anything past Gur. I don't put anything past Gur, but I think there is a difference of, has he even on page, like, shown you have we seen the death of like somebody that young? Like, well, I mean, I guess those kids with Arya, but they were more like, I feel like they're more like 12. Like, I mean, I don't think we've seen like a 3-year-old be killed, like, on page, like, actively. Like, we've heard about it, but have we actively seen somebody that's like 3
no,
like,
the only thing that came close was the Miller's boys, right? Who Theon.
Didn't we just see their? We just go there and we see their bodies? Yeah.
Do we actually see? That's a great question, because I mean, like, Tommen is young. I mean, we're talking about like how young, right? I mean,
all right.
Tommen is younger than he is in the show, and so we've talked about that death being like, if we see that, that's pretty brutal. Trying to think if there's anyone that's super young that we might see. Well, yeah, no, we just kind of hear about it. Cersei, I mean, wanting to kill Robert's bastards and stuff like that.
Right.
I mean, that's all stuff we hear about. Yeah, and again, that may just be what we do with Rickon, which is we hear that he was dead, or we hear that he's been killed. I mean, like, you gotta ask, like, are we really gonna see Shireen Baratheon burned? We saw it in the show. I mean,
I feel like we would.
We actually saw Rickon killed in the show. We saw.
Yeah, but again, show Rickon is like 7 or 8. I mean,
right.
I mean, I know it's not. It's like, for some people, it's not that big of a deal, but I do believe there's a difference between like a 3-year-old and like a 7 or 8-year-old.
Yeah, it's. I
mean, they're both. They're obviously terrible. But I mean, like, a 3-year-old's like that much more.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
You know.
I know what you're saying. Is would we actually do that with Rickon? And that's why maybe that's also kind of why I've always felt like he is a little bit more safe, even though George has. Yeah. It's my whole. I kind of think like he may be used against people. It may cause him problems in the long run, and that he's lost his mom, his father, he's lost his brothers and sisters, and so it's super stressful.
And a lot of it, as we always talk about when it comes to Winds of Winter, it all depends on Stannis, because we have no idea what's going to happen with Stannis and Renly and Jon and everything that's going on in the north, because it may be entirely it may go in an entirely different. Because I still to this day don't know how we get to the Battle of the Bastards in the book. With Sansa, with everything that goes down, and that's not to say that it couldn't happen, and then Rickon does die in some other way or not.
I guess my question, Matt. So just to kind of take this a little bit further, so back to John's point here, the Starks at the end of the books. What Starks do you see that we have left? What Starks do you think we're going to have left? I think we probably think Arya,
all of them,
Sansa, Bran, and Rickon, all of them, or does Rickon
and Jon, if you want to count him too? Yeah, I think they're all alive at the end. And here, actually, oddly enough, I think the one that might in the books that could honestly go would be Sansa, because I think she's the most expendable in the books, because I just don't see Arya dying. I just don't see a situation, because it's kind of like, it's like that's her whole deal. Is she's going to end up being this like super assassin? What do we say to the God of Death? Not today, right? I mean, her deal is kind of more so tied to these other people, like the Hound, and some of these other some of these other people that are like hardcore and stuff like, and his whole deal. And so, like, to see him die, I mean, Arya is the one I feel like, and it's also Gur's wife's favorite character. So I think she's by far the most safe out of all of them. Bran, I don't know if we're gonna do King Bran or not. Bran, there's the only way I see Bran dying is if Bran we go down the route of Bran is the Night King or something like that, and everything's we do go a lot darker, and then Bran ends up being like the villain. Something like that. Otherwise, I think Bran's entirely safe, because Bran's the first POV, and Bran's a kid, and he could end up being king because we see it in the books, and Gur probably told him that this is what happens.
Yeah.
Rickon's totally Rickon for me is like he's the wild card. Do you just use him as somebody to kill off? I feel like though, yeah, I mean, you see him, he's more prevalent in the books. But I feel like honestly his death was a bigger deal on the show just because of the way it happens. We're like, oh man. I mean, even Sansa's like, Rickon's probably good as dead. Like she says that in the show to Jon. So I don't know. I just don't see Gur going that route. I feel like he could totally be one of those characters that like, we go a total different way with him, and he's ultimately the one who ends up there because Sansa. Yeah, and then Sansa's role, I think, who knows where it could go because you've got the theory that she could end up marrying a Targaryen. You've got, I mean, where she's at is entirely different.
Right. So, I mean, really, okay.
What do you think?
Yeah. So, just real quick. So Rickon then in your scenario would be that would be how to answer Jon's question. He'd be the guy who that's how you continue.
I think so.
The line, okay.
or certainly, I think the most likely.
Yeah. Yeah, because his point is that Jon is, if he's deemed a Targaryen, and that's the whole conflict, and then he can't technically carry on that Stark name. Yeah, the only thing I could think is that Sansa still just sort of uses, I mean, I don't know, like that.
Right.
She still would technically be passing on the line, but would her sons bear that name?
If she's the queen, she can do whatever she wants.
Yeah, you know, a couple of times, I think it was in House Hornwood, or it was somewhere else, where basically they took different names, like they took their mother's name, maiden name, because they could have been the heir to a certain keep or whatever. And so, I mean, maybe like that's something that could happen with Sansa's children, and so they could continue on. But
what do you think? What do you think is going to happen with the Starks by the end?
Yeah, I think so. By the end, let's see. So Bran, I all I can say is he's going to be king. I don't know what that means. Where he's going to be king. You know what surprised me? I was going to make a joke earlier. Like, what if he would have? I know the joke at the end of season 8 was like, what if Bran just stood up? You know,
right?
I was like, what? You know.
Or like people said, or his eyes turn blue, and then it's like, oh,
something,
like,
something like that, yeah. So that's still up there, and that could be part of George's revisions or what have you. Sansa, I do kind of. I haven't really thought this far ahead because the show clouds a lot of my thoughts concerning Sansa. Like, could she? Because if Rickon does live, then he is in Winterfell, and there is no Queen of the North, unless she's his regent or something, and Rickon is proclaimed king in the North, and then she's his regent, unless there's what?
Yeah, well, just real quick, remember at the books at this point, all of the Starks, including Jon, have their wolves except Sansa. Mm-hmm. All of the wolves are still alive, except Sansa's. Well, and obviously Jon's because Rob's because he's dead. Right.
Yeah. So are you saying that's foreshadowing her?
Could be.
Just saying. Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah, because I've actually kind of seen. I don't know if it's a tie to history. I think I read somewhere where when the family that George kind of like when he looked at the histories that he was kind of modeling or being inspired from. The leaders that historical leaders that he was being inspired from, like to have two sisters come down and ultimately be these two sisters from this great house, and they're kind of ruling, and they're what's left over is maybe where we go. So it's almost like to me, Sansa and Arya are kind of safe, and Bran is sort of some weird stuff could happen with him. Rickon could die, and then Jon, is not a Stark. So that's where I kind of see that house just. It could, diminish. It could go away. It just seems like something George would do, and so it's kind of why it's interesting because the only way that I think it really would work is if Rickon lives, right? Rickon has to live essentially for the Starks to continue on their line, as is from what we know. I don't think. I mean, right now you can kind of assume that Bran is not going to have children. And so to me, I said earlier, I was with you. I thought Rickon is going to live. I kind of think that he's going to make it. I don't know how, but I think he's going to be not a big part of it, but I think he's going to be. Although I know I've read the George So Says Martin or whatever, where it's been hinted that Rickon is that maybe he's that he's going to die. Good. Yeah, things aren't looking good, and there's some language sort of surrounding him that seems like he's expendable. But like I don't know. I'm holding on to him just because I think it's because I like the Starks so much, and I want their house to continue on. I want that name to live on, and I personally think it lives on through Sansa. I think that's fine. I think she can honestly just be Sansa Stark, and that's that. Their family lives on, and that's just what she's going to do. It's a custom. It's a thing that they're going to change, and then boom, she's it. Arya, I don't think is going to. She's no lady. She is not going to marry. She's not going to do any of those things. Even if she does get with Gendry, and Gendry's different than Edric Storm, and Edric Storm is the guy who ends up being there at Storm's Inn or whatever, or someone else. It doesn't matter who, really. I think Arya could go off with Gendry and could go, just adventuring, and that's sort of where they ultimately end up. The real question, I guess, and what I think about a lot is, will Jon Snow actually just go to the north like that? Will he just simply, that was the one that's sort of interesting. You've got Mance Rayder, the king beyond the wall, and for Jon to take that up, or is he just a member of the Night's Watch still? Does he go back and he's reinstated? That is the one where I just don't know how that's going to go. Like, he's going to kill Dany in the end. I don't know. That one I don't really see that happening. I don't know. I didn't think it was going to happen, and it did, and I think it was more just to kind of fill some semblance of a prophecy, and we're going to try to make that work. But to me, I don't know. Jon is the one that's tough. I kind of think I could see Sansa being in the same spot. I think I could see Arya being in the same spot. Bran, if there's some weird magical stuff that he's still doing or whatever, and then Jon going on. The best thing to me that I've seen, and there's just no way this is that George is. I don't think we're ever going to see it in our lifetime. Which would include his lifetime, I think, is the continuation of that story, because I think season 8 does just cut it short, and something something does happen afterwards.
A scouring of the Shire,
and there's more, or there's just there's something else, and it's left open. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, that's good, man. That's good. Is it going to be different? Guys, let us know. That's why we do these. We love getting your guys' ravens. We love discussing them. And guys, let us know.